So, first of all, a warm welcome to all of the participants to our 7th Good After COVID-19 presentation. And we have the pleasure of talking about an important topic that is on learning and unlearning and new learning. So, and then how to repeat this process, because I think that also during the time of COVID-19, we've all been in this space. So just on the program, some practicalities first from me, and then we'll have a brief opening speech by Kim. Then Dr. Young will take over and take us on the journey on the learning process. And from there, we will have Lilli Paasikivi and Annastina Haapasaari, who will take you on a Nordic art expedition. So I hope you have your gloves with you, because it's still a bit chilly in the Nordics. And then we have Jussi Nissilä, who will talk about new learning and the era of digitalization. And then we'll have some time for a panel discussion that Herbert Lundström from Sprof will be moderating. He's waving there nicely, so you can see. And again, we're very glad to see that we have people from all over the world. And from last time saying that is this bringing like people to Finland, we're now calling it an expedition to Finland. So the question will be, of course, that when will we from Finland go to an expedition to the rest of the world? But that remains to be seen. But it's nice to have people from all over the world participating. So thank you for that as well. Practicalities. The microphones and the videos of the participants are off, so you don't need to look for the button on how to turn your camera off or how to mute yourself. It's done automatically. If you have any questions during the presentations, you can use the raise hand function. You can type it in the chat, or you can type it in the questions and answers. And during the discussion, I'll also follow the questions and the answers. And if needed, we can allow you to put the video or the microphone on. The moderator will give the word to the panelists during the panel discussion. And also during the panel discussion, we'll be using Mentimeter. I'll give you instructions on that, but also the chat and the question and answers. So feel free to interact with us throughout the whole webinar. But without further ado, I'll give my microphone and my headphone to Kim so that he can give the foreword. Just a second.
I hope you can hear me. I cannot hear myself, but my ears seems to be small, but never mind. Okay, so dear participants, it's my honor to open the 7th Good After COVID-19 Finland webinar. And I want to remind all of you that all this work and all our speakers are volunteers. We are very proud of the contribution we get by all of you. During the Good After COVID-19 webinars, we have gained thoughts of the present and insight of the future. We have been on a journey of learning new, but also letting to go of past. That's shown that we agree that things will change, but the majority doesn't yet know what the change will be. On this webinar, we have courageous people who are on the journey of discovery. I'm sure that you will learn much from the experience of our excellent speakers, how brave decisions can create new ways to success. So I hope you will enjoy this. Welcome to the webinar.
Great, thank you, Kim. So it is my honor and my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Young. She's a professor at Franklin University, Switzerland, and she's also in charge of the training that I'm currently doing on international management. And we have an emphasis on responsible management and climate action. So she knows from experience, but also by teaching students about the things to come, how to do this journey and how to embrace the part of both unlearning and learning new things. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll hand over to Dr. Young.
Thank you, Tina. Let me see if I do a good job sharing here. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Oh, that's good. Now I just want to put it into a slideshow mode, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity to walk with you through my journey, but I'm the first speaker, so I'll be laying the groundwork more, kind of talking a little bit about, what it is, what unlearning is, what learning is, what my experience has been, what my students' experiences are, and then our next two speakers, or three speakers after that, will actually, put it into practice and let you all know some cases from their particular organization. So again, thank you for this, and thank you for the opportunity for me to unlearn some things and learn some things as I prepared for this presentation. I don't know why my picture's there, but I did put lifelong learner, always in training. You can say you know how to be, or I can say I know how to be a lifelong learner, but it's always a practice. It's definitely not something that will ever be complete. And I don't know how many of you know Annastina, but I think this is a really important saying here, that we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. And when that's certainly true for me. And when our students come in the fall, or whenever they arrive, one of the first things I actually say to them is, forget what you've learned in many senses and come in with infant eyes, because if you start thinking that you already know about a particular topic, then you're not open to being to learning anymore, or to being current. So I thought that was a good place to start. So I went and found experts, of course, to see exactly what they were saying. And this was by Will. I have to move y'all. The pictures are in my way. Okay, by Will Richardson, who's an education thought leader, and actually has been honored in Finland in 2017 as one of the 100 global change makers in education by the Finnish site 100, and maybe there's a better way to pronounce it. And also he's been honored by Forbes as one of the top 5 entrepreneurs to look through. And he's speaking after COVID. And clearly this is exactly what we know. I mean, we're in this scary part, in a sense. I mean, we clearly saw, and it's not just COVID, but that is our current disruption that we're focusing on, is, we really aren't equipped, or some things worked or some things didn't. And it was very surprising based on what we thought we knew and the lack of communication and sharing and so on. So I think this is a scary thing, to think that we're not equipped, but it's also an exciting thing for me, in the sense that there's more to learn, and this will continue to be, and it's faster and faster for sure. So I encourage you to read some of him as well. And then you probably know about Noam Chomsky, and she says, we need to ask ourselves, what world will come out of this? What is the world we want to live in? I mean, it is our choice. And the students and I talk about this all the time. We, responsible learners and unlearners, choose and decide what type of world we live in. And as leaders, we need to encourage others and teach others to follow our way, if in fact, but we're going in the right direction. And I love, Tina, that the background of your space, your office, is all the sustainable development goals. So that's great, because we focus a lot, as you know, on that particular piece. And so opening up, we can only learn and evolve if we're open-minded and willing to let go of anything. That in itself actually gives me some anxiety, because it means that what I always knew was right no longer serves me that way or is not correct for this new place we're in. And it's a habit that it's like a habit, something that's holding me back or something that I need to consciously say, I want to unlearn. Typically, or in the past, when learning wasn't so quick, we tended to, and we still do, build models on top of models rather than saying, whoa, we need to start from a different place. Sorry, went the wrong way. So a growth mindset, and there are many different types of mindsets that they talk about us needing, but the first thing you have to do is understand yourself. How do you learn? Are you a visual learner? Are you someone who needs to actually participate in something? Are you someone that likes to read books? Whatever it may be. And then you start thinking about, okay, let me get out of my comfort zone. We've heard that for years and years and years, and still it's human nature to stay comfortable. And then adequately, we need to change when we realize things are not working. And something, while I'm just sitting here now, I'm thinking, I don't know, let's see, especially in the last 5 years of my teaching, and I've been teaching quite a while, and directing centers of leadership and things like that, coaching, I have found a greater disconnect between my knowledge and understanding of a student than before. Because, and this is what I'm feeling, is that I know my students and I think I know how I'm supposed to do things, but every year the gap of learning, and especially in the area of digitalization and things like that, becomes bigger. So I'm finding myself in a place of having to run as I unlearn and relearn so I can stay connected. So this, we know all learning involves unlearning. So we're able to do more if we unlearn, and letting go. Another challenge for a lot of people. I mean, we think we're in control, or I think I'm in control, but that's the craziest thing. I'm not in control, and letting go is the only way I can experience new learning. I have to open my mind and let go. Doesn't mean forget, it means let go. So the basic process of unlearning is you have this old mental model that's become obsolete or no longer relevant, just as I was speaking. I realized that some of my teaching methodology or some of my materials or anything was not connecting like it used to with students. And it could be easy for me to say, well, it's the students. They're just not as good as they used to be, or they're this or that. But no. It's really me that needs to do the unlearning and relearning. But the students, on the other hand, have a similar challenge when they come into an organization like ours, which I'll just mention later, where we don't do traditional learning in the sense that we're going to feed everything to you, and then you just write it back to us, and I'll stand in the front of the class, and you all will sit in your seats, and so on. So we need to build this growth mindset, this awareness that this is no longer serving us, no longer relevant. Then we need to identify or create a new model or plan of action that helps you achieve the unlearning goal. And it can be as simple as everybody does New Year's resolutions. Let's just say that you want to lose, I don't know, 5 pounds, or actually it's kilos, and if you want to lose weight, and you need to unlearn that you're not having your Swiss chocolate every day. And that's a habit, because if it was a habit that you'd have it every day, that one piece of Swiss chocolate that you wanted, now no, and it's very difficult to start unlearning that. And then you focus on this model in practice. And our students, when I get into what they're doing, they do, the SMART goals to see their habits changing as they move forward. So I don't know how, I'm not going to play this because it takes too long, but I don't know how many of you have seen this video about a man who he's an engineer, and his engineering friends decided to re-engineer the steering of the handlebar of the bike, so it was the opposite way. So he was trying to learn how to ride the bike with everything moving in the opposite direction. And it took him a long, long time and many falls. It took him almost 8 months to figure out how to change the the neurons, as we know about neuroplasticity, in his brain to be able to unlearn to learn how to ride this bike. So he finally did. By the way, it took his son, I don't know, his son was maybe 6, took him about 2 weeks. So that tells you something as well. So he learned to ride it, and he had other people trying to ride it and they couldn't. And then he went to visit in Amsterdam, of course, a great city of bicycles. And he was renting a regular bicycle and he got on and he couldn't ride it. And he had completely, his wires had changed. And so it took him a little bit of time, not 8 months, but about an hour to get back into regular bike riding. So we can learn and unlearn, and it's not forgotten. In other words, he knew how to ride a bike, before. And so it didn't take him quite as long, at all to flip the switch back, but getting to the unlearning the new learning was quite difficult. So Henry, I always like to quote people from all walks of life, in the arts, sciences, doesn't matter, but Henry David Thoreau says, when any real progress is made, we unlearn and learn anew what we thought we knew before. I don't know what I don't know. And this is where we start also at the university. So this is me, in the sense of this is who I've been for many years. And that's an entrepreneurial spirit within an organization and within academic institutions. And my vocation or my mission in life is to develop 21st century change makers. And I begin that work with the interview that I have with each student during an admissions process, because it's there I can see, after asking questions and learning about them, is this someone who wants to be a change maker and is willing to do the work, the learning and unlearning that's necessary to do that. I've mainly been in graduate management education, and that the years there make me look back and say, wow, it just didn't feel like that long. But I've been a dean, a professor, a director, a coach. And so I've learned many different types of things on my journey. And I would call what I live by active adaptation. So an example would be, and they get so upset with me sometimes at the university administrative level, in the sense that I'm always changing courses, getting new partners. We have a new partnership with, it's 2 years old now, with UNITAR, the UN Institute for Training Research. We have some other new and we're changing things as the environment changes. And of course, as the environment changes even faster, then we need to, keep our curriculum up to date currently. And so we're flexible enough that if something new comes in, we bring it to the students. But when you're the registrar or the person that has to do the back end of all the courses and the course, what's going on coursework wise and things like that, that seems disorganized to them. Where to me, it's perfect organization in the sense that it's so obvious that if I taught the course I taught last year in leadership the same ways, this year, if I taught it the other way around, then I would not be doing a good service. My students would not be open to and given the opportunity to what's really good and real and new. So how do business schools in particular keep education valuable? We have to have growth mindset, and we have to have the idea that we're putting on pioneering programs. We're going to do something that is maybe not being done. And that's one of the things we're doing at Franklin. We're kind of edgy on some things, but we can be because we're small enough and we're private. And our students come for that reason. And then, as I said, the curriculum development, it's continuous, and it must be student-centered, because that's what we're doing. And I want to talk about students and faculty in a second. So we need to unlearn. There's definitely discomfort and doubt all the time when you do this, but then you muster up your courage and go, I've done it in the past, so I can do it again. And then, you make mistakes. And so your humility comes in. And obviously you can't do this alone. So we're collaborating all the time. And then for me and for others that are doing it, it is really fun. while we're working on this. Fun to see this happen because it's new and interesting for us as well. I have to say the Finns are excellent in education, and there are many sources and stories and studies done by people and by professors, but also by practitioners and others in education in Finland. It is a model, but I kind of like this one a lot, which was, what if we're not breaking the rules, but we're just disregarding them? What an interesting way, because universities are full of rules and full of hierarchy and supposed to be the institutions of learning, and then yet we're don't have the, I would say, the culture to do that. The teacher, the student, to me, it's teacher, learner, because students teach, I teach, we learn together. That's what's so great about a flipped classroom or the way we work, is that it's no longer, I mean, you can find anything you want on the internet as far as facts. I'm no longer as a professor, the one who actually professes or gives the knowledge. Certainly I create the learning space and all that, but we work together and create new knowledge. Certainly basics, as I'm giving now, are part of it. But so basically, as you begin to think about learning, unlearning, teaching, you need to be aware that, as we talked about before, that something is no longer working. And then you have a dialogue about it. And then you acknowledge that, and then you keep going. So what I like to talk about is transformational learning. In our program, the Master of Science in International Management at Franklin University, Switzerland, we are really focused on responsible leadership. And so in everything we do, our students are working on different ones of these skills, because they may be farther along in their learning and knowing in some skills than others. They choose that. They are coached by us. These skills came from, or this selection, which will change. I'm sure some new ones will come on next year, but is keeping up with the business world and what they're saying and what they say they need. And of course, actually our theme this year of all those was resiliency. And we've spent some time on that because of the need to really hone in on that particular one. But every other student chooses 3, and I work with them as a coach. And so as coaching and transformative learning, we really go through meaning making. The students are reflecting. They are always reflecting. They reflect on everything they learn. It's required. And then, we have the intentional control where, we're looking at how we interpret the world. Then we have our discourse. We see that, a new perspective, and we're transforming. Then we take action, and action could be that you take no action, but you see that there are new opportunities. So one of our main pieces of the program, which the students like and don't like because it's a lot of work, is the e-learning portfolio, integrative learning. And in this, and I don't know how many people are familiar, but everybody has a CV, but sometimes when you have a e-learning portfolio or e-portfolio to share with a prospective employer, or we're sharing them with each other, this brings you alive, and it shows how you have taken responsibility for your own learning. And our students write reflection papers and reflective ideas on every single course that they take, and all of their leadership skills, their intercultural development skills, their outside learning. So they are really spending time self-learning and teaching and learning and teaching and learning. And then they design their strategies. This semester they've chosen basically co-created their curriculum with several people, but especially depending on their curriculum, with the expert that leads that. And we asked for feedback, from students, asked from their peers, from me, obviously, as their coach, their professors, their people, business community or community people. And I have to say, a lot of peer-to-peer mentoring has been going on this year. And I think that's so helpful for learning and unlearning together. So a future, something that I've gotten into and has become more prevalent is a newer intelligence. You know, we have lots of intelligences. We have emotional intelligence, we have cultural intelligence, we have intellectual intelligence, physical intelligence, and on and on. Well, now more and more leaders have been demanding something called spiritual intelligence. Now, spiritual intelligence is not religious or anything like that. It has to do with these kinds of I guess, areas of work and development, and it's getting rid of, as best we can, we're pulling out the ego, and we're really working to do transformational things, and it's a practice. And the coaching area in this has grown so amazingly, I mean, so well in the last 10 years, maybe, or so. Although we've talked about it for centuries, but the idea is we're putting it in the business community, and business communities asking for this. And can you imagine, you know, if all of us worked in an organization and we had these beautiful, you know, skills or characteristics or mindsets, what kind of a world we would live in. I am actually moving more into this area of spiritual intelligence and responsible leadership, and the students get a chance to be aware of this, and actually are really connecting it with the emotional intelligence, and really this is what we get to do. And I'm a believer that, you know, if we start this even at a younger age, this idea of awareness of your worldview and what your purpose is, and, you know, what about others, and, you know, your commitment to your higher power or whatever, that if we start that younger, they'll have a lot less unlearning and have a much more powerful base from which to come. So I gave you a lot of things. I just want to say one final comment for now. I mean, I hope that there are questions, and is that it's very exciting to be in higher education. And at the same time, it's frustrating because typically, you know, here we are, the learning organizations, the one to lead the world as we go, and we're still teaching in methodologies, very much so that could go back to the 1500s or even before then. I mean, and so for me, I've been a rebel. I get in trouble sometimes, but once they realize the students like it, they're okay with it. Because if you look at the spiritual intelligence, some of my colleagues would say, oh, that's the touchy-feely stuff. You need to teach them, you know, the theory of leadership. Don't worry about those things. So, but it's fun, and I'm grateful to have shared this, and I look forward to the presentations of the colleagues. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Young. So there is one question that I'll put out here right now. So where can you find more information on this topic? So I guess that this is related to the spiritual intelligence.
Is it? Okay. I mean, I can send it to someone, and I mean, you can go online. The one area, like a good way to look at it first, because it's got some assessment piece to it, is called SQ21. And the woman that's ahead of it is, that founded it is Cindy Wigglesworth. And she's an academic as well, but she's a practitioner. She coaches mainly in corporations. That's what she does. Anyway, for a long time, you know, how do you measure this? What is spiritual intelligence? But we knew we needed intelligence beyond emotional intelligence. So if you start with her, then, and I mean, I have taken the assessment, and it's well worth it. And then you would have to have a coach, you know, go with you through the results. But SQ21, and then Cindy Wigglesworth, that's where I'd start.
We can also on the event page. So once we have some references, we can put them there for you. Okay, the event page on LinkedIn will also be open for some time after this. So
okay,
yeah, so we'll give you some information there also after this. That's a very good question. So thank you for that one. Thank you, Dr. Young. It is my pleasure and my joy. I'll just share so that you get nice pictures as well of people. to present to you Annastina Haapasaari, that is the project manager. That is the project manager for Opera Beyond. Amazing journey. If you haven't got familiar with it, please look into that. And then Lilli Paasikivi, who is the director of the Finnish National Opera. So sometimes we might not consider that arts and these type of topics also in many things have a business mentality. We might only focus on the experience we get out of this, but there's a lot of work that goes behind it. And during the COVID-19, I think that one good thing that has been happening is that it brings a lot of different disciplines together to battle this or to work on this crisis. And it has brought a lot of inspirational thoughts and ideas in even surprising places. So I'm going to hand it over to Annastina and to Lilli to take you on this amazing journey, which I think that we can learn many things from and get inspired by. So Annastina will probably share her screen. Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation to come and share some of our ideas and realizations regarding learning and unlearning and the post-pandemic learnings. We would like to share some thoughts about the digitalization and how an organization like the Finnish National Opera is going through a certain kind of transformation regarding the mindset and learning. But first, a few words about the house that we are representing. The Finnish National Opera and Ballet is one of the European national stages, a big size opera house. We offer varied program from classics to contemporary, and we do around 25 main stage productions annually, 180 paid main stage performances. It's a very international organization with about 570 full-time employees representing over 30 nationalities. Within the industry, apart from the high quality performances, the Finnish National Opera is also known for its open approach and willingness to engage with other art forms. And while we preserve the classics to the next generation, we also want to leave a sign of our own time to the art form and enrich the existing canon. The questions we are asking and have asked ourselves is, what is opera of the future? And we always strive for use of what is opera of the future and how to navigate between tradition and innovation, what it means, with what means do we engage the future audiences, and can we benefit from failure and uncertainty? And this last question, I would like to reflect a little bit more. In an organization like us, we constantly strive for responsible use of allocated resources. We fine-tune and lean our processes, trying to eliminate any kind of waste, whether it's material, time, or money. And at the same time, in the very core of our artistic ethos, there is experimenting and searching for novel ways. So we balance between this control and the need to leave space for experimenting. And hence we must accept some level of uncertainty and even failure. And it's important that what are the learnings from uncertainty and failure? And certainly the pandemic time has taught us some lessons regarding this. Then we go to what did COVID-19 mean for the Finnish National Opera? Of course, this time has been, like for any other cultural organizations, also for Finnish National Opera, it's been a time of tremendous change. Since a year ago, when this all started in March, the heightened security measures and the safety of our audiences and employees has been our top priority. Due to all of this, we've cancelled performances. We've had substantial financial losses because we haven't been able to perform to our full audiences. We've had to reschedule our activity. We've had to do many new scenarios according to the information that is constantly changing. We have to plan ahead and see what if this, what if that. We've restructured our workflows and our production activity. It's both ballet and opera as art forms are certainly involve a lot of groups. So where can we and where we must work together, where we can work alone or in smaller groups or remotely, etc., etc. So it's been a tremendous amount of work we've had to do with that. But also the mental consequences in this organization. When we've had an endless cantus interruptus, it's very taxing because normally an artist or this kind of organizations focuses on the performances. We fine tune and we rehearse and we visualize, and it's all going to the performances. And now the performances have been cut, sometimes even after the premiere or very, very late in the last moment. So for the mental side of it, it's been important to discuss how we maintain the inspiration and the creative spirit that actually carries an art organization. The pandemic has also forced us to be creative in a new way. We've invented new, extremely topical productions like COVID fan tutte, where we took a Mozart opera and rewrote the whole libretto in a very short time, from idea to premiere in 3 months, in an organization where we normally work several years in order to design a new project. And then finally, it's also been very important to analyze how at a time like this we will stay in contact and be relevant for our audiences and stakeholders during the pandemic when we don't have performances. We've lost a majority of our customers. So the digital presence has become the central element and the main content of our activity. We have a streaming platform, Stage 24, that is free for anyone to look at our fantastic performances. We are cooperating on a European level in Opera Vision, which also shares content from various opera houses. Our streaming contacts have gone up over 500%. And also we've reached new audiences geographically and demographically in different age groups. For example, COVID fan tutte, in a normal performance, we have 1,340 people in the audience, and we might do maybe 10 performances. So we are talking a little bit over 10,000 in the audience. But this production has been seen worldwide by 350,000 people. So certainly this time has revealed the potential of the digital activity. And one important thing is also it's revealed the importance to create original content tailored for digital channels, not only streaming the live performances, but actually creating content that is from the beginning to the digital means. We've had digital strategy a long time, but everything kind of is seen with a new light after the pandemic. And a house like ours must think further. A digital stage, a troisième scène, like they are talking in the Paris Opera, is something that is very, very relevant for us at the moment. Still a few words before I let Annastina continue. I will present our Opera Beyond project to you. It was launched in autumn 2018, and it's a project that is embracing the digital movement through being bold and daring to ask the out-of-the-box questions. At Opera Beyond, we do not aim to replace what is valuable, but we want to enrich the palette and offer new tools for the creative processes and production processes, and to search for novel ways for both process and artistic content. It's extremely exciting and inspirational to witness and to see the creative friction between classical art forms and technology, and also the ways people work, the way people see the world and see these processes. It's an endless source of joy for me to witness this. And then the last very important idea about Opera Beyond is that we want to learn from each other. We want to share experiences and create an ecosystem of co-learning, where we want to invite the industry, the networks, various specialists and artists to be involved in this, what I call the Nordic art expedition. So Opera Beyond is an umbrella project of various smaller projects, but it's the most important thing that Opera Beyond is a mindset. It's a mindset for learning. It's a mindset for asking the right questions. It's a mindset where we are recreating and enriching the existing valuable what we have. Okay, Annastina, you take over now.
Thank you, Lilli. Digital evolution and the digital revolution mean various different things for different organizations. And here I would like to present a model of how we see the categories and different aspects of digital to our organization. So we can profit from new technology in various different ways. I'll start from digital stage, by which we mean the audiovisual content that the audiences can consume and enjoy from anywhere. In a sense, it can be called our Netflix, and this includes, from our organization, we have our own Stage 24 that Lilli just mentioned, but we also do collaboration with Yle and with Helsingin Sanomat, and also international channels, just as Lilli mentioned. This category has been around for decades, but we can conclude that this pandemic has really cemented this content as a standard. And this category evolves as the devices and the mediums change and develop, and when the radio changes to TV and the TV to mobile devices and so forth, but qualitatively, the main feature of this category remains the same, and it means that the it's digital content that can be enjoyed from anywhere, from home and on the go. Then we've labeled the communications and marketing tools as the PR stage. And this is also, of course, a standard and includes all the different digital tools used to reach customers, keeping in touch with them outside of the performances. So it includes mobile applications, ticketing systems, website, etc. And of course, today, maybe the most importantly, the social media, the versatile presence, up-to-date presence on all the different channels, be it Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or any of the others. Of the two remaining categories, they are maybe our special focus in the Opera Beyond project, and I will share you a concrete case example of both in a minute. With On Stage, we're talking about the ways with which actual shows can be augmented with new technology. So in contrast to the digital stage, these novel performances do require a physical presence at the opera house or somewhere else, because people don't have these devices at home. And so they come, for example, at the opera house, but then we can have there are two different categories within this category. So on one hand, we can enrich our live performances, our live shows that happen on the stage, and we can bring in new kinds of effects and all kinds of wow effects and interactive elements, visual and audio, new technology to enrich those shows. And then we can also make new kinds of performances and installations, just like our Lila production that I will show you in a minute. And then last category is behind the stage, and that's something that is not visible to the audience as such, but it's more about our own workflows and working tools. And of course, we've seen a huge leap in the working methods. All of us, all of our organizations have seen this change during the past year when we've taken all the Zoom meetings and Teams meetings are standard, but we think that it's only a little glimpse that we've seen thus far, and we can in the future we can see how much we can actually do remotely. It's not just meetings, but also design processes and so forth. Our first performance or experience realized within the framework of Opera Beyond premiered last autumn, and it's called Lila. Lila is an immersive and interactive installation by composer Esa-Pekka Salonen, dramaturge Paula Vesala, sound designer Tuomas Norvio, a multidisciplinary echo collective responsible for the concept and visuals and technical implementation, as well as, of course, our own team at the FNOB. And Lila is this kind of a combination of physical and digital elements that still requires physical presence at the Opera House, but it is completely novel way of offering artistic experience for the audience. And to speak in concrete terms, Lila is a dome-shaped structure, just like you see in the picture, inside which the people are surrounded by a multisensory universe created with projection mapping, with a spatial sound system, a motion tracking technology, and algorithms that combine it to one performance. And we were happy to see how we reached really our goals with this Lila project. So it had a great surprise element for our loyal old customers, but it also generated a lot of curiosity and interest in new audiences, as well as media. We had a completely new media contacting us and wanting to write about us and make stories of it. And we were also happy to receive the Fedora Digital Prize 2020, which is awarded for the most interesting digital content in the field of opera and ballet in Europe. Now I would like to show you a little clip of Lila, a trailer. Just a second, I will switch the window. Here we go.
Hi, Lila gives her voice to you. You are now ready to step in.
We create a universe within which things can happen uniquely to you, depending on what you say, depending on how you move within the space, depending on how you interact with other visitors.
If you should actually rebuild opera, you can't rip it down more than we've done it.
Okay, and I'll try to switch back to the presentation. Yes, that was Lila. Hopefully it will have a new round of performances at some point. So subscribe to our channels and follow if you haven't seen it yet. As I mentioned, our opportunities with new technology aren't limited to new types of performances, but we can greatly enhance our own workflows and working tools, and this is the case with our new XR stage design tool. So basically what we're doing with this tool is all about reimagining the design process, the artistic designing process for the stage. So on this platform, the workflow doesn't depend on the time or place where the team is, yet you still get to work and build the whole show on the actual stage. So how does this happen? We have basically modeled our own stage into an identical 3D virtual replica of itself, and we've added some, it plays on a game engine, and we've added functionalities that allow for set and light and video changes. And our ambitious end goal is to have a comprehensive, very realistic virtual platform where all the designers and the whole team can meet, and where they can do the whole design process of an entire performance from scratch to finish virtually. Then some overall observations on digital that we've made during this Opera Beyond journey so far. I'll try to be quick as I see that we are running a bit out of time. Opera Beyond existed before COVID, just like Lilli said, yet it has been strengthened by this time, and it was we see that we were like right on time with this project, and our efforts have really been valid and relevant. So through the digital evolution, we strengthen our relevance for the future, and it's to our benefit to have diverse and versatile content, different kinds of performances in terms of like the scale, all digital, hybrid, different, aimed for different audiences, all kinds. The project was also launched right on time in the sense that this digital and also immersive, interactive technological leap is happening throughout the performing arts industry, and perhaps all the industries overall. There's great development in many technological sectors, and different technologies like AI or projection mappings. The game engines are going forward with a great speed. We also see a blending of art forms and genres. So the visual arts come closer to performing arts and vice versa. And we also need multidisciplinary teams, which can offer a great amount of inspiration, not only in terms of the final product, but also for our mindset. And we, of course, recognize, probably all of us in this meeting, or this webinar, we recognize the importance of sharing and best practices and co-learning. That's what we're doing right now. You get new ideas and inspiration, and in addition of connecting with the existing networks you have, it's great to create new bridges too. With our digital strategy and with this Opera Beyond project overall, it's built inside this Opera Beyond project that we are in a constant dialogue with the changing world and with the audiences of the future. We need to listen to their expectations, and in that sense, we need to be both proactive and reactive. And we shouldn't be afraid of exposing ourselves for change and being open for new opportunities. Thanks.
Thank you, Annastina. I will sum this up still with a few words. So what are the key lessons from the past year, and how to make the best out of this moment, and how to implement the valuable learnings of pandemic to new normal? It's clear that in order to develop the art forms and to be relevant, we need to recognize the very strong digital movement and to harness it to profit our content portfolio and our processes. Behind us, we've got a year of rough experiences, and we've already made a massive digital leap. And I really encourage everyone to evaluate the situation. What do we want to keep, and what we want to develop further? And what is the collective value of these digital lessons learned? what impact they can have on our workflows and in terms of content, reachability, and accessibility. Keep in mind that these experiences, the new mindset, can also strengthen some of the existing ways of working and operating. How will we remember this time? Certainly the COVID shock wave has escalated the digital development, but there's been a need for a change of mindset. Both the artists, industry, audiences, and with this, I specifically mean the established actors. On the other hand, the ones who already have the right mindset are the next generation, the youth, i.e. our future audiences. Maybe they don't quite yet know that they will be our audiences, but I'm convinced that many of them will eventually get their season cards. Without the pandemic, the change of mindset would have happened much slower, and maybe the digital leap wouldn't have happened to this extent. But I hope that this precious momentum will continue. So I finish our presentation to encourage all of us to carpe the digital DM. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annastina and Lilli. Very inspirational and very brave and courageous. So as you can see, we have very courageous people that are very passionate about what they're doing. And this is something that hopefully this energy and this excitement of doing things in a different way is transmitted to all of you in the audience. We're running slightly behind the schedule. So we will probably extend the webinar with 10 minutes to allow enough time for the panel, but also to allow enough time for our next speaker, which is Jussi Nissilä from India. I'll share my screen again briefly. And as there has been this discussion on digitalization, Jussi has a lot of insight and a lot of experience in that field. And it is nice to see a person who is also very excited about this transition that is happening. And I am absolutely sure that he will provide some information on what has been happening previously, what is happening at the moment, but also inspire us to continue on the started journey and explore even more interesting things that are happening. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Jussi. So you get to share your screen.
I unmuted myself. Now I'm going to try to switch on the presentation. See. Okay, maybe you now see my presentation.
Yes, it works well. Thank you.
Splendid. Nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation. It's a very interesting topic. And yes, I do have a lot of enthusiasm around this topic, of course. I always thought that technology is a very exciting thing, and happily I have the opportunity to work around that issue. So basically, yeah, my title is New Learning in the Area of Digitalization. So my idea was to talk a bit about the role of technology in our world and about the nature of technological change and about learning in this context. And I hope it kind of brings another dimension to this discussion of these two great presentations that we had. And I'm going to also talk about the COVID pandemic and tell a bit about our experiences at Divia during these times and what we can perhaps learn all from this. Yeah, something about myself firstly. So I'm the CEO of Divia, which is a community or a federation of IT associations, companies and professionals. We work in Finland. We've been here quite a long time and trying to change also according to the times. Almost 70 years around IT issues in Finland. So I'm happy to be in this organization. My background in academic sense is in business administration. I studied information systems science at the University of Turku in the business school there. And since then, I've worked in actually almost all of the sectors, the third sector, academia, private sector, especially in consulting companies, and for the government in policy related issues. And pretty much what has been the kind of key in my career is the interest towards the impact of IT, both in individuals, organizations, and on the societal level as well. So I'm very excited about technology and especially how it impacts the world, basically. Yeah. From that point, I want to kind of talk a bit about what I've learned, some things I've learned about IT thus far, perhaps basic things, but I think they are relevant in this discussion. First of all, I think with technology, it seems that almost anything is possible nowadays. It's not so often that technology itself kind of is the limitations to doing something, and this is true especially I think in relation to information technology. This actually kind of, it's not bound to physical laws in this sense. Anything is possible in the virtual world, and our technology has developed quite a lot in that field recent years, so we can't even always imagine what is possible. Problem is most of the time in somewhere else. I mean, why we don't see more radical things here in our world? It's normally related to some barriers in the human world. So do we really know what we want? Are we able to specify that? Do we want to invest in the technological development? Is it cost effective, etc.? And quite often, of course, the problem is that we might not all agree what is actually the thing that we want. So change can be slow in many ways. But it's good to be excited about technology and about the opportunities, potential that technology provides. It also helps learn. Secondly, the real change actually begins only when we move from digitizing to digitalization. So with digitizing, we kind of imply that we only transfer, convert analog informational processes to a digital version. And that's kind of just the beginning. It's the thing that you normally start with. But what provides greater opportunities is that when we actually start to rethink what we can actually do with the technology, with the digital information or the digital processes, how should we design the processes to look like in the digital world? And then we talk about digitalization and digital transformation. And that really kind of the second phase in the digital change and kind of creates larger changes as we have been experiencing in many industries. For example, the advertising industry just really dramatically changed during recent 20 years. For example, media industry, for example. Yeah, so dramatic changes will begin when we start to really rethink the opportunities in how to apply technology in different contexts. This can be, of course, hard to do, hard to think, hard to implement, and a lot of unlearning is probably necessary in order to do those things in practice. Then third thing, digitalization comes in both positive and negative aspects. It has positive and negative effects. Creates winners and losers depending on your situation. It could be beneficial or not so beneficial or even harmful to you. An example, we have been slowly realizing how technology is a threat to our privacy and also democracy. We can say probably that. And yeah, we have to kind of try to see and influence these things, of course, in advance. So in our community, for example, we pay a lot of attention to technology ethics. It's something that I tend to mention and promote, that IT professionals need to have a broader view, understand how their technology is going to affect people that use it, or the society at large, for example. Some of these things can be seen in advance and taken into consideration, but not all. So we have to be also alert, study the change, study how the technology influences individuals, organizations, and society, and to be ready to change and repeat this process, learn what the consequences of technology and its use are. So that's a few kind of some sort of a framework for the next topic. So what has actually happened now during the COVID pandemic? It is clear that the avoidance of physical contacts has led to a dramatic leap in the use of IT on many levels. First of all, the individuals, they have had the need to change their social life, have less physical contacts. Social contacts are taken care of through online possibilities, buying, consuming. They are all kind of being now changed to the virtual world, online world. Of course, in organizations and how we do work, things have changed dramatically, depending, of course, of the professional. But I suppose that online work and online meetings are here to stay. The changes on the individual level and organizational level, they have, of course, also made it necessary for some of the businesses to radically change how they work. The new internet-based business processes, business models are emerging. Opera is maybe one of the examples. We really, organizations need to think how they do their businesses in this time. Of course, there's less traveling. The use of resources is changing, hopefully to less material-based consuming and going more services, etc. We still don't know all of the consequences of this or long-term implications of this. I'm sure that things are not going back into normal. There has been these technologies have been here for years, be used, and personally, I've in my career I've been wondering in many organizations and promoting that we could do more online work, for example, collaboration online, etc. But it has been sometimes very difficult to promote those new ways of working. So finally, this change, COVID kind of forced us to do changes, and I'm sure that we are not going back to the same ways. Yeah. So many of the things we still don't know what are going to be the consequences. For example, distance work, how it is going to influence social connections between people, employers, for example, colleagues. How it's going to influence work satisfaction or mental health of employees, etc. So we still have to study these things, and probably there's going to be a new normal between the old and the current situation like this. But some of the changes we can already foresee. For example, the digitalization now is going to change some of the industries. Maybe culture is one of them. Restaurants and hospitality industry in general too. There will be an increase in the need for IT capabilities and skills. We all have to learn how to work online and take care of cybersecurity. Also on the organizational level, cybersecurity issues are going to be an more important issue, of course, because of the increased online activities. And also on the societal level, we have to think how this will affect our security and continuity of our daily operations. If there's going to be some, for example, problems with electricity, provision or telecommunications, for example. All right, might run out of time too, so better go forward. Okay, we still don't know all the consequences of COVID. In Finland, we've done a few pieces of researches related to digitalization and COVID. And here are some research findings from our network. First of all, it seems that it is clear actually that COVID has been a business opportunity for some of the companies. So some of the companies have experienced growth during these times, while others have experienced decrease in their businesses. It also seems that companies that excelled in IT leadership were also the ones who were more ready in turning this into an opportunity. So there are probably two things. First of all, COVID, obviously, there was a benefit from a good IT industry and good IT skills, and we had to change to online work or do new business processes or new businesses. But also there might be a more profound, something more profound in this how these organizations work, who invest a lot in IT and also think how IT should be used in a more profound way, and how organizations learn in general. So maybe some organizations are more adept in unlearning, new learning, and repeating process than others. And maybe there's a correlation between this and the turning COVID into a business opportunity and learning opportunity too. I wanted to share the story of Tivia, so how we fared during COVID crisis in this last year. So we are a federation, a community of IT associations, IT-intensive companies and professionals. The association part, we are largely an event-oriented organization. It's like the opera, basically. So even though we are IT professionals, we still prefer to, or actually preferred, at least in the history, to meet each other face to face. So we do some 200 events per year, tens of training courses, meetings, etc. every year. All this, most of it actually offline, so face-to-face meetings. So this has been, of course, a crisis for us, and we've made a big leap. So last year, everything stopped in the spring, and we had to change most of our operations from offline to an online environment. Happily, that was a relatively easy change. So we started doing webinars and change our courses from offline courses to online courses, etc. We started to do more digital content, which has a lot of benefits, of course. But we actually just in the beginning to rethink how we do things in a new way. So I'm talking about how to kind of network people online. So if we can't meet, how do we get the same benefits in another way, in an online world? How to provide information and insights in the most efficient way for the learners, how to develop skills, etc. And there are some exciting initiatives. Some of our communities, for example, the ICT leaders, they've been really excited about gathering and getting people to write a CIO agenda collaboratively online, and they're going to publish it soon. And this is a new thing to them to come together online and do something that is really meaningful for the members. So shoemaker's child go barefoot. I think that's the English translation of Finnish saying. So yeah, even the IT professionals are struggling with change. So yeah, I'm going to try to finish, but quickly to wrap up. Yeah, the COVID pandemic has pushed digitalization forward in many industries. Things will not go back into the same normal. It will be another normal. I think in this case, it's clear that IT has been an important enabler, and IT capabilities and competencies have been a good investment. But I would like to say that I think it's true in other situations as well. That IT is such an important enabler in any sort of activities nowadays that it's just wise to pay attention and invest in those capabilities. Yep, digitalization come new challenges and risks. So we have to take into consideration those. It will not be a smooth ride, and not everything is positive. We IT evangelists, we have to remember that, and also, of course, everybody else. Big changes come with big consequences, in both negative and positive. But lastly, I kind of try to say something about this Good After COVID webinar series. I think it's a very exciting series. I think, like probably many of you, that we've been functioning with values and organizational models and methods of 20th century or even older for too long. So in many places, example, education and learning, for example, I think there is a really need for a dramatical change, and it will come sooner or later. Hopefully all this energy that has been piling up can be now used for building the better tomorrow. And my point is that technology is definitely going to has a role in this change. So let's all try to take advantage of that. But that's my talk, and I'm happy to continue in the panel. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Jussi. Very interesting and inspiring, and there is definitely a leap that is happening at the moment towards different type of acting. So now all the panelists will put their cameras on again so that we can see you. Hello, I'm sharing my screen and I'm sharing with you Mentimeter. It is just generating the code, and this is so that the people in the audience can participate. Kim will also be looking for the questions in the audience, and Herbert Lundström, who's a very experienced coach and mentor, will be moderating the question. But the first question, so you can go, for example, with your mobile phone or with your laptop, however you prefer, to the page menti.com. And there it will ask for a code, and the code is 7076607. And then it will have, so as we launch different questions, you can provide your answer here. So now I'll hand over to Herbert and the panel. Yeah, Herbert, I think you are muted.
Now it should be okay. So we wait for the answers for a minute or two, and then we continue. So take your time to answer that. It takes a little bit time to log in and so forth. So.
I think we can. We have 13 answers, so I think we can.
Yeah, I think we can. So my best colleagues in the panel, as we can see here, failure is basically a positive thing, and I think it was Dr. Young that was already on this topic. But let's take this a little bit further. You can answer in order, Corinne, then either Annastina or Lilli from the opera, or both if you like to, and then Jussi. When we see this thing of failure, which is also combined with the word fear, how have you in your industry coped with this fear when you have carried out this process of learning and learning? Dr. Young was a little bit on this topic already, but you can probably broaden that up a bit. And I'm very interested also in the opera, what kind of internal fear and even resistance you may have met when you came up with this fantastic opera beyond concept you so well presented to us. And then of course, Jussi, you see this digitalization, and we all know that especially if the working force or the co-workers are a little bit older, this handling this digitalization is not always a very easy thing to carry out without resistance as well. So you could perhaps enlighten a little bit of how you see how to handle this unlearning, new learning from a digitalization concept point of view. So if we start with Corinne.
Okay, thank you, Herbert, for that question. It's a big question. For me, one way that we can reduce fear, if you will, or yeah, I guess that's it, because the fear of failure is a fear of many people, just as if there's some people have the fear of success. But what we're trying to do, and I think other organizations as well, is trying to keep a safe space for failure and actually creating opportunities for failure, so that as the students reflect and do their learning and they learn more about themselves and their capabilities and their needs and their feelings and all of those things, they can better or become stronger at facing, if you will, failure, the possibility of failure. And I think it's become, at least, and maybe even Tina, I see a couple of everybody else on there, a couple of students on there. I think it's become it's a hard unlearn, in the sense that most people, I mean, we are a reward and success society, at least in, very much so in the West. And when you failed, you had a bad consequence, whether it was you lost your job or you didn't pass a subject in school or whatever it may be. And I think now, given the opportunity and coaching as well, students maybe don't blame themselves so much and are willing to try new things, knowing that to actually get to success, we do sometimes fail, and it's okay. We look at it, we learn from it, and we pick ourselves back up. So I think a lot of it is built into the culture of a program or an organization.
So just one adding question. So you deliberately then create opportunity for the students to fail in a way?
Yes.
How do you do that?
Well, we throw them into situations that they know nothing about.
Okay.
That's one way. I mean, maybe they have never heard of something or been there, and they figure their way through it. And yeah, I mean, it's exciting to watch them finally get through whatever it was, accept it, and then the light goes on, and that's wonderful.
Shouldn't we apply that to the business as well?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, the most entrepreneurial or the most innovative allow for failure. I mean, that's there.
Oh, well, thank you, Corinne. Let's have Lilli. What have you done in the Finnish National Opera to handle this failure or fear aspect?
Yes, thank you. I think failure, of course, it's a bit of a negative. It has a bit of a negative ring to it, but certainly it's part of any artistic development process to basically growth happens outside the comfort zone, and for any artist to develop throughout their career, they need to overcome the fear of moving outside their comfort zone, and to recognize your limits is the first step to move those limits and boundaries. So as an organization, it's of course very important that we create opportunities for our artists to grow and to, as Corinne was talking about the safe space, it's important, but we need to make sure that the safe space doesn't happen in the crucial situations that are then our performances in front of an audience. But it's important to see far enough and to recognize the potential of the artists who can grow into what directions and present them with those challenges then, maybe not in the premiere cast, but in the second cast, and step by step take larger roles. So this is, I think, a definitely important discussion that the employer and employee can have together, and it's an ongoing thing. I remember when I was out of college after Royal College of Music in Stockholm and Royal College of Music in London, I realized that after 8 years in college, I was ready to start learning. I mean, I got tools to start learning, and actually the learning happened then on a big stage with orchestra, with my peers side by side singing with me. So certainly this fear is part of the whole career, but I don't want to talk about fear, not stage fright, not insecurity, but somehow to accept those to be part of your development, part of your process. Fear can also be a kind of stimulus. We need adrenaline. We need, in a way, the spirit of moving forward and explore. I think this is a really much larger philosophy than just a performing artist's philosophy, to accept that there are always things that you can learn more about, and actually only through failure. I mean, if you just have success one after another, what have you learned? Absolutely nothing. So that's why it's really important that that we cherish this and see the value in it. But of course, one more thing that I need to say is that if you don't learn from the failure, then it's a bad thing.
Then it's a disaster.
Yes.
So what kind of resistance you internally had with Opera Beyond? Perhaps Annastina can give us a short answer on that.
Internal resistance.
Yeah, did you have any?
I think we did have. I mean, opera as an art form is one of the most traditional ones, and there's a lot of people that also have maybe that respect the traditional aspects of opera. But so that's why it's important in the message of Opera Beyond and in our vision of the project to remember that we are not replacing anything. We are enriching the palette and the canon and all that. So we can do these things in tandem. And in opera world, it's important to keep and protect and preserve the classics, but also take new to leave that imprint of our generation. And I think in terms of internal processes, it's the most important thing is probably to be open and to be in constant dialogue, to sort of always keep the people like up to date and leave it for them to jump in when they feel ready, but not force them, but to like try with the speed and keep them updated so they can join when they feel ready to.
Yeah, that was one very interesting and important aspect I think you made, Lilli, in your presentation when you said digitalization is about enriching, not replacing, basically.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing, all in, be your industry, whatever, that one thing we can take with us, everyone here in the webinar, those who are watching it later on. But Jussi, how do you see about fear and digitalization as a fundamental issue?
Well, I'd like to start with failure. It's just much more easy.
Start with failure, that's fine. Just keep going, please.
Well, I think IT industry in general is such a new industry, young industry, and it changes fairly quickly all the time. So I think there's a lot of failures. Sometimes I think it's rare to see or hear about an IT project that everybody was really happy with. And you can read about the stories of gigantic failures, big projects failing, and they do dramatically affect our lives. So yeah, have to be careful.
How good are top management walk the talk when overcoming this kind of unlearning, relearning difficulty that there might be?
Well, I don't think very well, actually. At least in Finland, it seems that we do have like great capabilities, great potential to actually use IT for our benefit. But sometimes I think this is like a strong hypothesis that it's actually the top management that normally is the kind of I wouldn't say a barrier to change, but more like are they really able to unlearn, right? And think from beginning. Like what do we want to achieve? And actually, there's an interesting contradiction between the kind of the will or vision, a strong vision to do something. It's a great thing you get a lot done, but then when you have to adapt to a new situation, then it could be actually a burden. So do you want to have a big mouth or big ears? It's a good question. But anyhow, failure. Yeah, I mean, as an industry, we've developed a lot of processes, for example, agile processes to kind of, to address this large share of failures in IT processes. So there are ways to, of course, address that. I think in general, of course, it depends, how you define failure. Long term, it's a really different thing than short term failure. So of course, like the ability to learn, so doing things incrementally and learning in the process, that's, I think, of course, the important.
Do you have any comments to share with each other? Just shortly, if someone wants to comment something what someone other has said, so please do. Then should we take the other Menti issue then, Tina?
Yeah, we'll take it brief.
Very briefly, we have only 5 minutes, so you have only 45 seconds to answer that now.
So we already have some answers here. So
great.
If you want to elaborate on those, feel free. And the ones that haven't answered, feel free to do that.
Yeah. We take 1 minute to if someone hasn't.
I think we can continue.
Okay. It can be there, and you can still continue to put set input if you like to. If we look at the future, we have a saying that which is very common, at least in consulting by consulting companies, that business life has never changed as fast as and profoundly as now. But however, never anymore. It will change slowly. So from that point of view, we see the role of education, of course, be a very significant contributor to handle this. But from your perspective, what are the most urgent learning and unlearning competencies now we should develop? Corinne mentioned the coaching as one, but what other tools, what other concepts do we have to tackle this education issue? We have one from academia, we have one which is a CEO also for an adult education company. So very interesting to hear that. What kind of tools should we now start producing and implementing so we can handle this ever-going accelerating change that we are facing the coming decade and decades? There are a lot of things coming. We have post-COVID, we have sustainability issues we have to handle. We have a lot of big issues that we have to bring along in our businesses and operations in the future. So if we start we can start with Lilli and Annastina first of all. How do you see on this issue at the opera? How are you going to facilitate this issue and educate your people going further in your organization?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because what we are tackling with is that our regular activity at the time of COVID really is taking all our time and a little bit more. So, I mean, a learning process always takes away resources from normal activity. So it's the management's responsibility is to find enough space for this learning to happen in order to analyze the processes, to have workshops where people kind of ask the right questions, and we try to find new ways of working. It's quite it's time-consuming process. So at the moment, of course, many thoughts are arising, and we can see our regular way of working in a way in a new light. But when is the right time to start this process? I'm not saying that we haven't done lean management and all sorts of learning processes early, but when to extract the learnings from the COVID time, I think we really need the dust to settle a little bit before we can really embark on a more thorough learning project. On the other hand, it's very important for people to weather these experiences during the COVID as well. That but it's really a question of balance, how to keep the ball rolling and at the same time then have enough perspective to learn and to find the right points from it. So I don't really have a right answer for you, because we are still
I don't think there is one right answer to this issue, and we could discuss this all the afternoon if we like to.
Yeah.
How do you think of it? We have very little time, so be as brief as you can, please.
It's my turn.
Yeah, please.
Okay, great. Yeah, very inspiring topic actually. Quickly, of course, we have to pay attention to lifelong learning. Of course, that's
but does that include that lifelong learning?
What is included in lifelong learning? Yeah. Well, a lot of things, of course. I mean, I think what we just addressed. I think we have to pay more attention to responsibilities. Who has to be involved in making sure that we can actually do continuous learning? Of course, the employer has a lot in that. Of course, the employee as well, and the society. So there's of course a balance between these parties. Has to be a balance. But I think of course, it just has to be that we have to not only to kind of take time to study formal education, but be able to learn all the time at work. So of course, also make learning possible in a more micro packages, so to speak. And also not only to learn, but also to somehow do verification of the learning in the process. Of course, it's important to learn how to learn as well. So meta skills. I wrote down T-shaped learning curve. So I mean, if we kind of assume that we don't only have to learn skills, but we also have to understand how the world functions and what's our role in that. So not only we have to have specific technical education, for example, but we have to understand the society or how things work, the economy, etc., ethics as well. So also broadness in our education. I wanted to actually talk about something that Dr. Young spoke about, the spiritual intelligence, because I found it very intriguing. As far as I could think about it now, it seems to me that we really should kind of more emphasize this sort of intelligence training in primary education and in education, formal education in general, and maybe give more leave the skills learning and kind of knowledge learning maybe to the later phases of the career, for example. Well, that's my 5 cents.
Lilli was already mentioning that her 8 years of master studies was an unlearning learning process. So is that, Corinne, what the future is about our graduates from universities, that the only thing they know is the only thing they really know is to unlearn and learn, or what does the future look like?
No, obviously they know more than that, but I wanted to, Jussi, I think this is really interesting because I'm thinking of a contract with a consortium of, or actually schools that are around the world with the same headquarters, and they're K through 12. And I've never worked with kindergarten through 12th grade, but the idea that if we can't maybe start some of this deeper work earlier, we might have, I'm looking forward to that kind of work. So yeah.
Sorry, I don't think we have any from the Ministry of Education here, because that they should start addressing that part of the issue. So.
Well, I'm telling you, the Finns are good at education, so you might be the first.
Yeah, no, probably, yeah.
I'm slightly going to jump in, Annastina. If you have a brief comment, we can take that, but then we have to round up as we are almost 15 minutes over time.
You represent the youth here, Annastina, so what's your opinion on this issue?
We'll take Annastina first.
Yeah, I meant Annastina.
I think, well, many of these things bring into mind the sort of mindsets that are encouraged in the startup companies, and I think there's like the flip side of the coin maybe is there, like the motto that Mark Zuckerberg has is move fast and break things, and that's maybe like also we have to emphasize the responsibility in technology. Like when we move forward with technology, it is sort of it's an unknown journey, and it is can be a dangerous path, or it can have a lot of risks. We need to take risks, but we have to also remember the responsibility when working with technology. And I think that's also one of the aspects why also like cultural institutions and organization like ours, we can't leave the technology for like the tech giants and the social media companies or Google or the giants. We need to also like give our imprint also for technology and for digitalization, so that we are also in the movement, and we are also affecting what happens with digitalization and where it will like eventually take us. So I think we can't leave the development of technology and digitalization just for the giants. We need to bring in our like human voice too, and all the different voices.
Yes, and yours are the future, so definitely so. But please, Tina, you can round up.
Yes.
Thank you for
so much.
Thank you for your input in this panel discussion. But please, Tina, please.
Thank you. And there is clearly a lot of things still that we can discuss, and I hope that the discussion will continue after this as well. Thank you for your input, and thank you for your patience as well. So we will have the next webinar on virtuality and trust, which will be interesting. It's a good continuance from this, as we've been talking about failure and how to embark on this journey of change. And then we'll finalize this spring with this creative, inspiring futures that will be then in April. And you can find more information on sasteri.fi's webpage. So there are always the latest updates, and we will also put the LinkedIn webpage up now for all of you to see after this. And just as kind of like, so of course you feel free to reach out to us as always with thoughts and ideas. Our network keeps growing of people that are in this movement of identifying good things that inspire all of us. So we will definitely keep up this work, but something is happening. So there are good things coming out of this and things that we can get inspired by. And this webinar has definitely shown that. So as we round up, the final thing that we'll ask you is that, are you excited to start your own expedition or your own journey? And you can see that we've already had active people that are in the mode of absolutely, let's go. So let's hope that we've been able to inspire more people to join there. As said, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you to the audience. Without you, none of this would make much sense. Everything has been recorded, so you can watch later on all the inspiration and get inspired later on as well. Thank you to our panelists, so to Dr. Young, to Annastina, to Lilli, and to Jussi for harnessing this energy and supporting people in getting inspired by the change in front of us. And of course to Herbert for good moderating in the panel and for Kim to opening up the event. We look forward to seeing you again at the end of the month. And then we'll slightly change topic, but we'll keep on this, the digitalization, but we'll move into the trust part a bit more. So thank you very much. And we'll stay online for a while, but the webinar as such is closed. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.